The Green Ensemble, a nonprofit theater group, has always been financially dependent on contributions from corporations and would have been forced to disband this year if any of its corporate sponsors had withdrawn their financial support. But the Green Assembly has not only been able to continue in operation throughout the year, but has recently announced its schedule for next year. And the question asks, which one of the following is a conclusion that can be properly drawn from the information above? Well, let's see what information we really have. We know that this group, right, has always been financially dependent on contributions from corporations. So they would have had to disband if these corporate sponsors had withdrawn their support, right? So if the support had been withdrawn, then they would have had to disband, right? But then we know they didn't disband, they could continue, right? Meaning that, well, if they didn't disband, then we know because of the contrapositive that the corporate sponsors probably didn't withdraw, right? Or definitely did not withdraw, right? Due to the contrapositive. That seems to be the main piece of information that we can take away from the stimulus. So let's check out our answer choices. A, none of the Green Ensemble's corporate sponsors withdrew their financial support of the group this year. Ooh, okay, let's check out if we have enough support to say none. They say, okay, they tell us, hey, this group would have to disband if any of the corporate sponsors withdrew their financial support, right? So if even one had withdrawn their financial support, they would have had to disband. But since they didn't disband, that meant all, right? All of the corporations kept their financial support. So we can say for sure that none withdrew their financial support of the group this year. So that seems like a great answer, but let's check out the rest of them. B, earlier this year, the Green Ensemble found other sources of funding for next year, making the group less dependent on corporations for financial support. Ooh, did they ever mention anything about other sources? No, right? They just told us, hey, the Green Ensemble has been able to continue, right? They've been able to continue, but we have no idea how. We just know that, the original corporations that they were depending on couldn't have withdrawn because they told us that, right? That if they withdrew, they would have to disband. So we can cross out B for that reason. They never mentioned anything about other sources, so we don't know. C, during this year, corporate funding for the Green Ensemble has been steadily increasing. Do we know whether the funding has been increasing? No, because do we know what the funding was last year? Not really, right? We just know that this group has been financially dependent for a while, or always, however long that is, but we don't know whether funding has been increasing or decreasing because they never use any words like that, right? They never say more or less. Really, the only word that they use here that we would really want to take note of is any, right? So we can cross out C for that reason. They never mention increasing or decreasing. D, this year, corporate funding was the source of more than half of Green Ensemble's income. Well, how would we know that unless they told us more than half, right? Do they say more than half anywhere? Do they say majority? Do they say most? Nothing like that, right? They never use any wording like that, so we can cross out D for that reason. How would we know, unless they said it? E, corporate funding for nonprofit theater groups like the Green Ensemble has recently increased. Okay, so this is talking about corporate funding in general, right? Because they're talking about for nonprofit theater groups like the Green Ensemble, not just the Green Ensemble. So we definitely don't know, right? We don't even know if it's increased for the Green Ensemble. We definitely don't know if it's increased for nonprofit theater groups in general because the stimulus never talked about nonprofit theater groups in general, right? It only really just told us information about the Green Ensemble, which is a nonprofit theater group, just one, right? So we can cross out E for that reason, meaning our answer here is A.